Golden Guitar winning singer-songwriter Matt Scullion is known in the industry as a songwriter to the stars, having had his songs recorded by the cream of Australian country music artists such as Lee and Tanya Kernigan, Sarah Storer, Adam Harvey, Travis Collins and Amber Lawrence. And an incredible 25 of those tunes went to number one spots on the country music charts. One of his songs, Our Backyard, won Song of the Year at the 2018 Golden Guitar Awards in Tamworth. Matt's latest outstanding single, The Boy from Birchip, that I played just a few seconds ago, is another great gem of a tune from this master songsmith that speaks about something that is clearly close to Matt's heart, and that he seems to have a rare ability to put into a song, rural Australia. Matt is clearly as true blue as they come, and he sure does know how to sing about it. Altogether, Matt has been nominated for 7 Golden Guitars and 2 APRA Awards, but I'm certain his journey along the road to continuing success is a long way from being over. And I think I can safely say that we've thankfully not heard the last of this bloke for a long while yet. I've had the pleasure and privilege of interviewing Matt on this show several times now, and I'm truly delighted to once again have him standing by on the blower, waiting to have a chat with me. So let's bring him on air without any further delay. Hello, Matt. How you going, mate?
G'day, Harry. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm great. Absolutely gorgeous. Well, first of all, welcome to the Country Club. It's always an honour to have you on the show, and it's always a pleasure because, like I said off air, I so look forward to having you on the show, and nice stuff. So,
well, thank you, Harry. It's always great to be on the show, mate, and a big g'day to all your listeners down there in Melbourne. I was down there probably only a couple of months back, actually, and
okay.
I always enjoy getting. But I didn't do any shows in Melbourne. I was out near the Promontory.
Okay, yeah.
Wilson's Promontory out there, and I did a show. I did a show around that area, actually, in a place. I'm trying to think of the place.
Bairnsdale.
Well, yeah, actually, Bairnsdale. Yeah,
yeah.
Out near that way, and it was a wonderful spot, and I really enjoyed it. So, but we didn't get any time. Didn't get a chance to come into Melbourne itself and do any shows, but I promised to get down there soon.
That's all right, mate. Whenever you can get here, you're always welcome. And, if you're coming to Victoria, there's no better place to go than the Prom, It's nice down
Absolutely.
there. Yeah. Absolutely gorgeous down there. All right, let's have a talk about your latest single, I love this song, The Boy from Birchip. It's absolutely great story, told extremely well, as I would expect from Matt Scullion. But I'd love to hear in your own words how you discovered that story and why you were influenced enough to write such an amazing song about it.
Well, firstly, I got to say in your wonderful introduction, thank you. You said that I have a knack of being able to put these stories into song.
You do.
A friend of mine. Well, thank you. A friend of mine who's I won't name drop, but very well known in the business.
You can name drop if you want. I do it all the time.
No, said to me, a song is only as good as its idea.
Okay.
And basically, what he meant by that is don't bring me crappy ideas, which hopefully I didn't, but who knows, I might have on that occasion. So what I mean by that is, look, The Boy from Birchip was a wonderful story anyway.
Yeah.
Like a great story, and I got told, like I do a lot of my story songs, at the end of my show.
Okay.
I can't remember where I was. Maybe I was up in Winton in Queensland last year. I think that's where it might have been.
Right.
Because I go up there every year for about a month. My wife and I, we go up there and escape the cold weather and head up there for a couple of months and do some shows. And it was the end of one of my shows, and someone said to me, do you know who won the 1948 Melbourne Cup? And I said, I wouldn't have a clue. And they said, well, have a look at that. I reckon there's a story in that, and then walked away.
Okay.
That's all they said. And I went, oh, gee. So I wrote that down on my phone.
Okay.
And I got back that night, and I Googled that, as you do, and looked it up, and I couldn't believe what I was reading. And then I had a look, because whenever I come across a great story like that, I always then check if there's been any other songs.
Okay.
Now, there was a song, but it's a very old one, and it sounds like it was written back in the day when it happened. So
Okay.
it's very ragtime jazzy, if you know what I mean.
Right. Yep.
And I thought, you know what, it might be time to write an updated version of this story.
All right.
So yeah, that's sort of how it all began. Now I didn't start on it straight away because I was sort of in the middle of a tour and doing things. So I waited till I got home, but I always had it in the back of my mind, Harry. And then I just started doing my research, you know, and just reading about Ray Neville and reading about Rimfire the horse and the circumstance. And as in a lot of my songs, I haven't got time to put everything in it.
No.
So, look, the song goes for 3.5, 4 minutes already, you know, and if you make them any longer than that, well, you know, you don't usually get played on the radio, so you've got to keep them, you've got to keep them sort of down to that time. Yep. So a lot that I say in the song, there's a lot more to it, you know. But look, I was just intrigued by this young fella who was 15. He was an apprentice. He was, you know, he hadn't had much. He had a few races, but not many in the professional side of things.
Right.
And the reason he got the ride was because at the very last minute, like I'm talking the night before, the rider who I can't remember his name now, he abandoned ship because he got a better mount.
Ah.
Nobody gave Rimfire a hope in hell to finish, no matter who was on their back.
Right.
And apparently this jockey that was on the back of Rimfire was a pretty well-known and good jockey, and so he got offered a better mount. He jumped ship, and they were left with without a rider. So they're looking around. I think someone had suggested this young fella, Ray Neville, because he was light. You know, he was young, he was keen. So, but they didn't tell him till the next morning because they didn't want him. They wanted him to sleep that night because he probably wouldn't have slept if he'd known. Anyway, long story short, he got told. You can imagine what he did. You know, he would have freaked out. And they got him to the course. He didn't have any riding silks.
Oh.
So he had to borrow some. Now, they were miles too big for him. So he had to roll everything up and tuck everything in. And when he was in the jockey's change room, they actually sniggered and laughed at him and joked behind his back.
Right.
You know, and you can imagine how he would have felt, you know. And then, and all the horse was 80-1 on the tote. 80-1, right? But apart from that,
why would you put money on that?
Yeah, exactly. But here's the thing: the trainer didn't even put any money on his horse, and none of the bookies even thought that the horse would finish the race.
Fair enough. Oh no!
Because it was rumoured that the horse was partly lame.
Okay.
It had good form a fair while before that, but over its last, 4 or 5 races, it had terrible form.
Okay.
So everything was against this horse. Nobody in the crowd thought it was going to win. They didn't even think about it. There was probably a few people laughing and pointing as Rimfire would have, walked out into the, into the main area.
Mm-hmm.
But he rode the ride of his lifetime, and it was the very first year that they had the. It's another thing that I didn't put in the song because I didn't have time.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first year that they had the photo finish.
Ah,
the very first year. Okay. Now, if you look on my video clip, which is up on YouTube, it's just called "The Boy from Birchip."
Yep.
You'll see the original footage in there, which I put, as well as footage of me, sort of singing and doing what I'm doing in it.
Yep.
And you'll see the photo in there.
Ah.
And he seriously wins by a nostril.
Oh, fair dinkum.
So he rode the race of his life, and he won. And then he pretty much just disappeared into history. Right. I think he rode a little bit more, did some country races, but and then he was a trainer, I think, for the rest of his life. And and it's sad because you go to Birchip, and all there is like a little plaque there in the main street.
Oh, really?
And I even asked. I went in there a while back on my way through. I think we were heading down to Harrow to do a show down there, and I asked a few people in the local cafe, and nobody even knew that the plaque was across the road.
No way, really? Oh.
So stuff like that disappears into history, like and it's sad, unless there's a big statue in the main street.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that really, and this isn't a put down. Like I'm not having a go at Birchip at all. I mean, I don't even really know the town, And, you know, it seems like a beautiful place. So I'm definitely not having a go at it. I'm just saying that it seems that you would think that when a town has a story like that, which is in my mind gold.
Yep.
You would think that the local tourism would get onto it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stick up a statue of the boy from Birchip, and try and encourage tourists and caravanners into town, because they would come.
Of course, absolutely. That would be a major attraction. I mean,
wouldn't it? Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't happen every day. You know, like an 80-1 winning the Melbourne Cup. You know, that's history, man.
It's huge history, and I sort of shake my head. Well, I scratch my head. You look, because Sharon and I, my wife and I, we do a lot of travelling, and we go through a lot of towns, and every little town has a little slogan or a little, you know, the start of the outback, whatever they use to promote their town, or they have a big thing there, or they have some silo art, or they have something.
Yep.
But when you've got a story like that,
wow, yeah.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
you can't buy that kind of publicity.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. And a big pat on the back to you, mate, for absolutely putting that song putting that story into a song like that. You know, because it raises the profile of the story itself. You know?
Yep.
And you know, a pat on the back to you, mate, for doing that. Because
thank you, mate. Thank you.
That sort of stuff is Australian history, and it's what makes this country great, and it really needs to be put out there. I'd never heard of this story until I heard this song. You know, so
I know, and I reckon a lot of around that area. I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of old timers that know the story.
Yeah.
But there'd be a lot of young people and a lot of kids in school and that wouldn't know that story, you know. And I don't know, maybe they do teach it in school, but I reckon it would be a wonderful story to teach in school.
Absolutely.
You know, just as a motivational tool, and just as a you know, a proud thing. You know, we all get taught about Ned Kelly and sort of different things like that. But there's so many. Ned Kelly's a wonderful story.
It is.
There's so many other ones out there. So many, and I come across them all the time. And I've got, I'm bringing my new album out. Well, I've got a new single coming out shortly, and then I've got my album coming out following that pretty soon. I've got another one of those sleeping stories on the album too, which I reckon you'll enjoy.
I will. I absolutely will. I know there's nothing of yours that you've put out that I haven't enjoyed, mate.
Oh, thank you.
You know, so I can see that continuing. So, you know, keep up the good work.
Cheers. I appreciate that. But look, as I said, you know, a song's only as good as its story, you know, and you know, you've got to have something with it, especially with a story song. It's got to have substance to it. And this, you know, so for me, all I had to do was connect the dots. I already had the outline there. I just had to connect the dots and colour it in. So
yeah. And you did a great job on it, I have to say, as usual. I mean, yeah, I go back to like ages ago when you brought out that song about
1868, yeah.
Yeah, with the the Indigenous cricket team, that went over to England and did a terrific job. They won half their games. I mean, how do you do that? You know, that was just an amazing story, and it's one.
I know, wasn't it?
Absolutely, and it's
and
one.
You look at. Yeah,
it's one I never would have heard of if I hadn't heard your song.
Well, cheers, mate. And you look at the little town of Harrow.
Yes.
Right, they've got where Johnny Muller's from.
Okay.
And he was the like the Indigenous John Bradman.
Okay.
You know,
yep.
Amazing. He's the central character in the song.
Yep.
Harrow is a beautiful example of you have a wonderful story and you celebrate that story and you bring people to town to celebrate it. They've got the Harrow Discovery Centre there, which is a cricket museum dedicated to that team, and it is an amazing. A lady down there called Josie Sangster runs that place, and it is just amazing. And they've got the Johnny Muller Oval. They have big cricket tournaments there 2 or 3 times a year.
Yep.
They celebrate that side, you know, and they just do it so well, you know, and they've got a wonderful story, and they use it to keep the story alive.
Yeah, good on them. You know, that is great.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
and that is an important part of Australian history, I think, and it needs to be preserved. You know, and good on them for doing such a great job of it, by the sound of it. You know,
it is, mate. It is, and you know, and there's many places out there that do grab their stories and run with them, and I think it's you know, it's great for. It's like silo art. I've got a song on my latest album, or my last album, called Bush Mona Lisa.
Ah, yes.
Which is all about our beautiful silo art, and I think it's wonderful how towns. And I know that in Victoria you've got a silo art trail, which my wife and I are very much looking forward to getting down there and checking it out. I think it's a wonderful thing. Not only for tourism for small towns, you know, but I just think for people to go and learn some history of a town, and usually you find on a silo where they've done a painting, it's something relating to the area, which I think is great.
Yeah, we were on our way back from Adelaide one time years ago, and we stopped at a town, and we actually watched the guy on the cherry picker going up and painting, you know, the silo art. He was actually in the process of putting it up, you know, and it was just fascinating. And, you know, we bought a coffee and a sandwich, and, you know, so we spent a little bit of money in the town, and I guess that's the idea of it, you know, just to bring a little bit of business into the town to support the local shops and so forth, you know. And
learn some history of the place. You
exactly.
know, go back home with knowing a little bit more about this beautiful country, you know. There's so many wonderful stories out there that are getting lost with history, which happens because, look, you move on, you know, like things happen all the time. There's history being made every second of the day, you know, so you've got to make room for new stuff that's happening. I get that, but there's some of those stories out there, I reckon they're worth. Look, there's a lot of books written about them, but you know, the great thing about a song, if the story's told correctly in the song, and it's a bit catchy and it keeps people listening, it might then turn that person to the book, if you know what I mean. So I think a song, if it's written well about history, it's a great introduction to the story because you know, you need time to read a book, you know, and not everybody has the time to spend an hour every day on reading a book. So I think a song's a great tool for that.
You're right, absolutely. Yeah. Now this is a suggestion, but you know, take it or leave it for what it's worth. But I read the memoirs, not memoirs, but the bio of Weary Dunlop, and an absolutely amazing story, not just about his in World War II, you know. In the Changi prison or whatever they were doing there on, during World War II, and Japanese prisoners of war, the Australians, you know. That's a great story in itself. But anyway, Weary's story, I mean, he was a surgeon, you know, a groundbreaking surgeon here in Melbourne, and he played rugby, you know. And you wouldn't think a kid from, you know, Victoria would be a big rugby player, but he was. You know, so it's a great story. If you look at his story, you know, just read the fascinating read. Absolutely enjoyed it. You know, so if you ever get the time and you come across it and you get your hands on
Weary
it,
Dunlop,
Weary,
I'll definitely check it out, mate. There's so many of them out there. You know, it's I think I find the thing with you've got to be careful when you're doing these songs because, like, if you're going to write, say, a story about war, you know, I think it has to be something with a real point of difference and a really good story, which sounds like this one has, because there's so many songs already about it. Yeah. It's like if you're going to write a song about the Anzacs, you know, there's so many wonderful stories already out there. You really need to find something that's got a point of difference. Yeah. Because the main thing at the end of the day is you need to keep the listener listening.
Yes.
And if they think they've heard it before, in a sense, this is another story about such and such, they're probably going to tune out. You know, so I find that you really need to, but it sounds like it could be something worth checking out for sure.
I reckon. Look, if nothing else, it's a great read. So I'd recommend it to anyone to read Weary's biography. A legend, absolutely legend. And there's a lot of stuff about his private life and so forth. It's really, really interesting. Anyway, look, we're just about out of. Well, we are out of time. We've gone well over time.
Doesn't it?
It always happens when I interview you. We go far. We go way over time. So but look, it's been a great chat again, and again I'll look forward to the next one. And I'm going to send you later when after the show. I'll text you our mailing address here at the studio. If you can send me that new album, I'd love to have my hands on it.
Yeah, it's not, as I said, not quite out yet, but I'll tell you what, I'm hoping to have it out very, very soon. So
whenever it comes out, mate.
Definitely send that, and I'll send you one. But can I just say before I go?
Yeah, go.
Again, thanks for having me on the show, and a big hello to all your listeners down there in Victoria. And if anybody wants to have a listen to more of my music or check out where I'm playing, I've got shows all over the place coming up. Mm-hmm. It's just mattscullionmusic.com.
Okay.
So go on there. It's got everything they need to know, and they can contact me or just hopefully come see one of my shows. I'd love to see them.
Absolutely. And I recommend they do it. I strongly recommend it. Absolutely. Go and see Matt Scullion live, in concert, I guess, because it's well worth the effort,
No worries, mate. Thank you so much, Harry, for having me on your show, mate.
You're more than welcome, and like I said, I look forward to the next one already. So thanks for taking the time to have this chat with me, Matt. I do appreciate it, and all the best to you, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Good on you, Harry. Cheers, mate.
All right, see you, buddy.